right, guys, it's your legal bestie attorney, Symone, and this is another episode of Girl, Is That Legal? Today we are talking the Diddy docket. We are doing a recap. Today is day 3 of the Diddy pretrial. This is jury selection, and they basically wrapped it up. They will reconvene on May the 9th. So I want to do a recap of that. Apologies for that intro taking forever. I had to go make me a beverage. It's one of them days. Now, if you missed it earlier today, I did a live with Vanessa from the Reality Podcast where we obtained I obtained unsealed documents from the Drew Sidora and Ralph Pittman divorce. We broke those down on the channel, and you definitely want to check those out. Now we see why Drew did not want them records unsealed, y'all. It showed that Drew filed for unemployment. She collected $4,187 in unemployment for 2024. That was just peculiar. Let us know where you're watching from, guys. Let's see. Oh, and as well, this is my website. Let's see. This is my website, which is SymoneRedwine.com. Don't forget, you can go here, sign up for my webinar. If you know anyone who is thinking about going to law school, I have a free webinar called It's Not Too Late for Law School. Applying to law school. It's about applying to law school for grown folks, basically those people who are not going straight from undergrad. We're going to talk about tips, tricks, and how to do it while keeping your day job. Literally, there are night programs, all kinds of things. That's going to be next Wednesday. You can also get my ebook there, and my ebook is Background Checks 101, a beginner's guide to discovering who you're really dealing with. You can click and get that there for $19.99. And lastly, you can book a consult with me here. It'll load it's loading right now, but you book a consult and it starts at just $159 for 30 minutes. So, all right, let's get into it. So in the Diddy trial, y'all, Diddy got his colors. Diddy found his colors, okay? You know, it is true. Diddy's legal team sent out emails. I saw one of them myself, looking for a Black lady lawyer that they wanted to add to the legal team. They had previously had a Black male, Anthony Rico, who was on the team. But then when them white boys, Mark Garagos and them, decided that they wanted to argue in court that the reason Diddy was being prosecuted is because they were trying to hold a Black man down, he said, hell no, he ain't finna do that. He said, you better find somebody else to do it. And he did. He filed a motion to withdraw because in good conscience, he stated that he could no longer continue. In other words, the strategy that the legal team was using, he said, you're not about to have me come into this courtroom and talk about the reason you're being prosecuted is because you a Black man. There may be valid times when that is true, but this ain't one of them. So needless to say, Rico dropped out. And now there's 2 new Blackies. Okay. We've got Miss Nicole West Morland, who I'm going to talk about secondly. And we've got a new gentleman that was added whose name is Xavier R. Donaldson. And I'm going to show you a little bit about Xavier real quickly. Let's switch to Xavier's page. Let's see what I do. Here we go. There we go. Now, there we go. Now, this is Mr. Xavier. Now, I've actually thought he was a lot younger. He just must drink a lot of water. He looks good for his age. So Xavier has been practicing for a long time. Apparently, we have mutual friends. He is a New York City litigator, professor, speaker, and crisis manager, which clearly Diddy needs. It appears he just joined the legal team like over the weekend. Both he and Nicole just entered a notice of appearance yesterday. And so people are like, it's so late in the game. How much are they really going to be able to do? But at this point, I believe it's about the visual. It's about the narrative. Diddy did not want to walk in there with an all white boy legal team or all white legal team against what Diddy's own lawyer described as what he called him? Hold on. A 6-pack of white woman. So on the prosecution side, it's all white, 6 white ladies. He calls them a 6-pack of white ladies. One of the women on the prosecution team is actually James Comey's daughter, Comey, who did the whole, Hillary and her emails or whatever the hell and messed up the election, allegedly. His daughter. So back to Xavier R. Donaldson. So Xavier is obviously an attorney. He's been with his own firm for 2 years, but prior to that, it looks like for 24 years, he was with Donaldson and Chilius. I wonder if that was a firm that perhaps he owned with whomever Chilius was. It says he represents clients charged with complex federal and state cases involving murder, international, national, and local narcotics conspiracies. Good. It sounds like he's in good company. He's also an adjunct professor at Brooklyn School of Law, and for 5 years was with the Bronx County District Attorney's Office. Y'all, you can cut your teeth. You can learn a lot over there with them crazy people. And he went to Howard University School of Law and graduated law school in 1994. Okay. He ain't no spring chicken. Oh, I want to read this that he posted. I found this interesting. It says, my brother and I, legendary Thomas B. Donaldson, just completed a 4-week complex trial in Manhattan, accusing my client of participating in a wide-ranging narcotic conspiracy with evidence consisting of video, audio, phone records, text messages, voucher drugs, and of course, several witnesses. Fortunately, my client was not convicted of anything and will live to fight another day. That was 9 months ago. Sound like he's doing a good job. So that's Xavier. Then we've got Miss Nicole West Morland. So this is Nicole. Nicole is obviously a woman. She has been brought onto the legal team. She is known for representing Young Thug's co-defendant in Atlanta in the YSL trial. And in that one, she got him a pretty good deal. He was actually facing murder charges, and she got him, I want to say, 7 years. And with that 7 years, he's getting credit for time served. I think there was 2 years that he already sat in jail. Now, hit that like as you guys come in here. Now, here's one of the things that's most interesting about Miss Nicole. Nicole is an R-word survivor. She survived a R-word by none other than it happened at one of Cash Money Records studios. Yes, the Cash Money Records studio in 2001. This was when she was 19 years old. And I found this really fascinating story about it that I'm going to share with you. I think it's important to hear this story as I share it to get an understanding of her, a better understanding of her, what she's been through. And it also, for me, after reading it, made it even more interesting that she wanted to be on this case. So here we go. Let me move this a little bit. It says a woman who was raped at a music studio, I say that for YouTube, more than 10 years ago, agreed to a confidential settlement with label owners shortly after a Fulton County jury last week found the defendants liable for the attack. Now, mind you, the guy who did it actually pled guilty. So this for real happened. This wasn't no fake. This for real happened. It says the jury agreed with the plaintiff, Nicole West Morland, that Cash Money Records and its two principals, Ronald Sugar Slim Williams and his brother, Baby or Birdman, should have foreseen the danger and the then 19-year-old woman faced when she was raped in a bathroom during a studio party where drugs and alcohol were reportedly being used and open sexual activity was taking place. The deal was hatched last week by attorneys shuttling between their clients in the courtroom and an anteroom of jurors waiting to begin deliberating damages. So in other words, a jury found them guilty. And then after that, the jury was about to go start deliberating how much money the jury was going to award when they came to a confidential settlement. It says, originally out of Louisiana, Cash Money's artist roster includes acts like Lil Wayne, we don't care. It says, during closing arguments, plaintiff's attorney pointed to the Williams brothers, that's Birdman and his brother, self-processed roles as the head of a global music empire as reasons that they knew or should have known that a guest in the studio was a dangerous career criminal, as in the guy who did this to her. That man, Alfred Cleveland, ultimately pleaded guilty to the assault. He was a lifelong neighborhood acquaintance of the brothers from New Orleans, the lawyer said, and they surely knew of his criminal background. It said, pointing to his client, a slightly built woman who had come to the studio to deliver a business presentation on behalf of her employer. That's what Nicole was doing. Her attorney, Lackland, said the attack should not have come as a surprise to the Cash Money executives. Y'all, this case was so complex, it took 10 years to get the verdict, in part because it was in Fulton County Court. There was a motion for summary judgment. Case got dismissed, and then it was appealed in her favor on appeal. It was found in her favor on appeal, and the Georgia Supreme Court allowed that ruling to stand. It says, they left a 19-year-old girl who was there to do business with a room full of grown folks who were drinking and doing drugs. Instead of ensuring her safety, they abandoned her to fate. And what was her fate? She was raped by a Cash Money hanger-on. The lead defense counsel, whose practice includes entertainment law, argued that Nicole's lawyer talked all around the central issue facing the jury, which was whether the defendants should have anticipated the danger. Now, here's the facts. It says, no evidence has been presented that shows that my clients should have foreseen what was going to happen, Cox said. He asked the racially mixed jury to put aside any preconceptions they might hold regarding rappers, including the heavily bejeweled and tattooed Brian Williams at the defense table, and rule only on the evidence. Now, here's why it took a decade for her to get this verdict. Mind you, this was before she was ever a lawyer. This happened when she was 19 years old. It says the verdict and settlement ends more than 10 years of litigation that began in early December 2001. At that time, the plaintiff, whom the Daily Report is not identifying because she's a victim, she met a man named Stone. Yeah, she met Brian Williams and a man named Stone. She was an employee of a company called Suspended Driver's License, LLC, which helped drivers have their license restored. The company has since folded, but Stone, who identified himself as a Cash Money employee, said that many Cash Money employees and recording artists had suspended licenses and could probably use her services. In other words, he invited her to come make a presentation. After declining an offer to make a presentation at a hotel where the Cash Money contingent was staying, the young woman agreed to go to Patchwork Studios in Northwest Atlanta, where Cash Money had rented studio space. She agreed to give her presentation after being assured by Brian Williams, which was Birdman, and Stone that she would be safe, according to the plaintiff's documents. It says, Nicole also called the studio and spoke to a receptionist who said that Patchwork had security guards on site during recording sessions and also had security cameras on the premises. She then traveled to the studio where she was encouraged by Stone and Birdman in the parking lot. They again invited her inside, again ensuring her it would be safe. She declined. Check this out. This is going to probably go into how she views victims because of how she conducted herself diligently, it appears, but was still raped. It says, she declined their offer because she was by herself to come inside the studio, but returned the next day with 3 friends who were passed through security by Baby and Stone, Birdman and Stone. It says, once inside, they again met Stone, and someone introduced them as Stone's brother, Elliot, who was later identified as a rapper for Cash Money. Also present was Cleveland. That's her assailant. Cleveland is described in the order as a neighborhood friend of the Cash Money Records brothers that owned it. Elliot sent 2 of Nicole's women friends away in her car to buy liquor, according to testimony, and her 3rd friend was off braiding someone's hair. That left Nicole alone in a lounge area where, according to Nicole's account, she felt isolated without her friends and became concerned when she saw people using illegal drugs and engaging in explicit sexual activities. She said she decided to go to the restroom and then leave. She asked for directions to the restroom and made her way there, where Cleveland then followed her inside the restroom and raped her. During the rape, someone knocked on the door and was told by the defendant, Cleveland, that he knew what was going on and was told to guard the door. According to the plaintiff, Cleveland offered the man a chance to assault her too as well, but she begged him not to, and he allowed her to leave. After the crime, the women returned to the lounge area. Nicole returned to the lounge area where her friends had returned from the liquor store, and she told her friends, "We're leaving." The entourage that had been inside then followed Nicole outside and was present when she was approached by a security guard for Patchworks who asked her if anything was wrong. Nicole then refused to answer him. Then Stone and defendant Cleveland, the guy who just attacked her, approached, and she asked Cleveland, "Why did you arm me when there were so many other willing women on the premises?" Oh my gosh. Y'all, that lady is bold. She looked that man dead in the face and said, "Why did you arm me when there were so many other willing women on the premises?" And she was told by her assailant, "Having sex with someone who doesn't want it is where the fun is." Child. Her lawyer said that Nicole was warned not to call the police, but she reported it anyway. Later that night, so she did not wait days, she reported it that night. It says that night, police arrested Cleveland at a nightclub to which the Cash Money Group had gone to that night. Nicole reported getting phone calls telling her to stay quiet, including an offer of $100,000 from Cash Money Records' former accountant. And she's got this corroboration. Listen to this corroboration she has of her side. The lawyer says, "My client also testified she got a call from somebody named Slim who identified himself as an owner of Cash Money. And he said they tried to be nice, but now they were going to kill her if she did not drop the charges." Still, this girl is fearless. The defense portion of the case said that Cleveland, after being arrested, spent 2.5 years in jail before pleading guilty to aggravated assault with intent to rape in exchange for a 3-year sentence with credit for time served. So this man pled guilty, got 3 years time served. At his sentencing, he denied having raped her. A suit and a trial. Then in December of 2003, basically the civil suit was filed against all of them. I told you about how it was appealed, but it was initially dismissed. The Georgia Court of Appeals appealed it. Also, it states evidence in the court in favor of Nicole included testimony from a psychiatrist who treated Nicole following the incident, a receptionist from the studio who testified she was unaware of any drug or alcohol being used in the studio, the studio owner who said he did not have videotapes that recorded the goings on throughout the studio. Nicole's lawyer also presented a deposition from Cleveland, her assailant, who is serving prison again in Louisiana for being a felon in possession of a firearm. Cleveland said that he had been paid between $800 to $1,000 a week to be a bodyguard for Cash Money at the time of the incident. And one of Nicole's friends who went to the studio that also testified that Nicole told her that she had been R-worded that day and that she was present in the hospital with Nicole when the accountant called to offer Nicole $100,000 for her silence. So basically, I found that, y'all, what do you guys think of that? Like, that's Nicole's story, right? That's Nicole's story. And for me, it's very interesting how she decided to join this case. Oh, yeah. Her assailant definitely did not get enough time. Absolutely not. Like nothing happened. But that's why Cash Money cut her that check. I mean, this is probably why she's a lawyer, a damn good lawyer, and will continue to, excel as one. I know when Diddy heard her backstory, he was like, her. I want her on this jury. I mean, I want her on my case. Now, one thing that I don't know how it'll go, I'm curious as to whether she'll do opening or closing statements. And if she does, whether she's permitted to reference her own personal experience being an S assault survivor. Yes, now she's Diddy's attorney. Yeah, I haven't heard any blogger go through the intricacies of the facts of her case. So I wanted to make sure I didn't go any further without sharing that with you, because this sounds like a dream team for him, just from the perspective of skill set talent. If she's allowed to, and I don't see any reason under the law she couldn't choose to volunteer her experience. I could see her doing a mean closing statement, y'all, because she would be able to compare and contrast how she handled things in her trauma versus how certain other people in the case, certain other victims, held and didn't tell police for 20 years or 15 years or whatever. Yeah. I wonder she's a tough, love her strength. I can't wait to hear interviews from her after this is over. And again, she represented one of the co-defendants in the YSL trial. So if her name's familiar, that's why I'm shocked. Someone's asking, do I think he'll get off on the charges? I'll say this. I don't know about that part. I don't know if he'll get off. I think he will be in trouble for some. He may get off on certain ones, but my bigger concern is that Trump will pardon him. Trump is just so power hungry that I can see him choosing to do it just for the attention and the uproar that it will give, especially if Trump feels he's not getting a fair trial. You guys have to remember, Trump, there was a case, I believe it was Arizona, a cop had already been convicted of excessive force and beating up this victim, this person. Trump then went back and had the court sign an order that knocked it all down, had the prosecutors, who already got the man convicted, execute paperwork to turn it into a misdemeanor. Now that cop can get another cop job or anything else. So I say that to say, if Trump doesn't like what a judge does, he's going to overrule it. It's federal. He can do that. He can do that. So if he is pardoned, do I think Diddy will be brought up on? He can't. Well, that's not true. That's not true. You get only one bite at the apple. So if Diddy does get brought up on state charges, number one, I think the issue is the statute of limitations that people were using has expired. It was a specific law that basically reopened the window. That window closed March 1st of this year. So I don't believe that will be possible. Yeah. Shasha says, that'll be interesting if he pardons him when he's about to leave office. I do know that they were friends at one time. Yeah. He loves that celebrity. And, to have Diddy come out and go be back on top. But here's the thing. Even if Diddy gets pardoned, his career as a power player in the music industry is over. He will have to just go to his mansion and live there, as a recluse, because he ain't going to be able to get no reservations at no good restaurants. People will harass him. His life will be absolutely hell. So that was one of the really significant parts I wanted to make sure you guys are aware of with the trial. The other part is they're in voir dire. So I got a copy of the voir dire. So what voir dire is that simply jury selection is what they're going through. And here's how it works. How jury selection works is initially there was a questionnaire that was mailed to approximately 700 potential jurors. Now, these jurors come exclusively from the Southern District of New York, as in that's where they live. So that's Manhattan, the Bronx, Westchester, I want to say Richland County, like a few other counties in that area. So it's not just Manhattan, but it's those little hoity-toity areas too, like Westchester. So it went out to about approximately 700 people. And they asked them questions. Actually, they have a lot of questions in here. They asked them questions about, like, what are your social media? Wait. Which one is, I don't want this one. They asked questions such as, what social media do you consume? Instagram, da-da-da-da-da. They asked them, have you seen anything regarding the case? These are actually questions. Let's see, hold on. That jurors were being asked in the questioning in court, but there were similar questions, and I'll go through these. There were similar questions that were mailed. Those questions were mailed, then they got back the answer. Some people answered ridiculous, crazy things where it seemed like they couldn't be fair. Those are put into a pile. All 700 of those people were supposed to show up, but they're put into a pile. Some people are excluded based on their responses, and then others are brought in for voir dire, and they're asked these additional questions. So it's questions like, are you married? Are you in a relationship? Do you have kids? What are their ages? Are you currently working? What do you do? Then they ask him this, and these are Diddy's side's preferred questions. He wanted to know, tell me if you or someone that's very close to you has any training, experience, or specialized knowledge in any of the following areas: sexual assault, harassment, domestic violence training, business, psychiatry, addiction. They also ask about what clubs or groups or organizations you belong to, like sororities, fraternities, church groups. If you're super religious, they may or may not want you. Some of the more interesting questions I saw: what kind of music do you like? How often do you listen to music? Do you have any personal experiences or opinions about drugs or alcohol use or addiction? How do you get your news? Newspapers, social media, websites, podcasts? If so, which one? They also ask, would hearing about SA and that kind of evidence be difficult for you? They also stated there may be evidence that people cheated on girlfriends or boyfriends with other people. Would hearing about that kind of evidence affect your ability to serve as a fair and impartial juror? Also, have you ever been through a traumatic event? If so, would that affect your ability to listen to witnesses who may say that they went through traumatic events? And when you're given these questions, basically, there's some other ones that was important. Hold on. Any training on S assault or S crimes? If you've ever been a crime victim, do you have strong feelings about prosecutors or defense attorneys or law enforcement, that kind of thing? And when they're asked these questions, they're asked in a large panel, and it's like yes or no. It's like raise your hand. Like if you've been through a traumatic event, they'll say, if you've been through a traumatic event, raise your hand. First of all, people are a lot of times embarrassed to raise their hand. And then they have to ask follow-up questions to see if you can be impartial. And what happens right now is there's two types of challenges. Each juror is being evaluated for two types. There is preemptory, which means because I feel like it. And then there's for cause. So the stage they've gone through right now has been for cause, meaning if the judge, and the ultimate choice was the judge. So they'll ask questions each side. One side could be like, I don't think we really like this person. So they're like, Judge, I think you should dismiss this person for cause. Even though they said that they could be fair, it sounds like they're trying to get on the jury. At one point, Diddy's lawyer said that. It sounds like they're trying to get on the jury. They don't really, it doesn't appear they're going to be impartial. Please dismiss them for cause. It's up to the judge. And then what happens is the judge has now dwindled it down to 45 people. On the next day, so not tomorrow, tomorrow is off, but Friday when they come back, what's going to happen is that's when they get to use preemptory, which is because I don't like you. You could look at somebody and be like, they look like they stink. I want them off the jury. You can be like, they look like they ain't got no black friends. I want them off the jury. Preemptory means you can strike them for any reason or no reason as long as it's not based on race or gender. Because back in the day, they used to strike people. They would strike all the black jurors. They still probably do. They would strike Hispanic jurors. In Dallas, the prosecutors had a manual, and it specifically said in the manual, because I worked on this case when we appealed it to the Supreme Court, it said that prosecutors are to do their best to dismiss from the jury pool all Catholics, Chicanos, Negroes, and Jews because they sympathize too much with defendants. It was in writing. As a result, the case that I worked on it in the 1980s, that person was sentenced to death, but we were able to appeal it to the U.S. Supreme Court. And they finally ruled in 2005 that you can't dismiss people from a jury pool for being black. So now what happens is Diddy will have 10 strikes and the prosecutors only get 6. So that means the defense has 4 more chances to get rid of someone just because they don't like it until they get to the first 12. It's literally just of the 45, because they've gotten down to 45, they're going to go through and ask each person questions. And some of those people, based on their new answers, will likely be they could be dismissed for cause. It's unlikely because most of that's been done. But this next phase is all 45 will be in one room. And literally you have like a chart. So I would be sitting on whatever side that I'm on. You have your chart and you've got the questionnaire. So for example, I like school teachers, depending on what kind of jury it is. I like school teachers a lot. They take their time. They're generally more compassionate. It varies. I tend to like black men, depending on if it's a black male defendant. I like black men on the jury. So I'll do my best to keep that black man there. Whereas the other side might be like, we want the black guy to go. He probably will empathize or sympathize with Diddy too soon. So that's what's going to happen Friday. We're going to get our final 12. Let me know if you have any questions on that. Hey, Dennis, how you doing? Good to see you. Can Trump pardon Puffy after he's sentenced, or if Puffy gets a big sentence? Or does Trump have to wait until he is turned over? Trump could pardon Puffy right now. So you actually don't have to wait till someone is convicted to pardon them. Because if you think about it, Biden pardoned his son, I think, before he was sentenced. I could be wrong on that. But yeah, you can. And Biden pardoned some people who weren't even indicted. So you can do that now. Now, here's my personal opinion. It's my understanding that Diddy has been straying away. He doesn't want a bunch of women on the jury. I disagree wholeheartedly. But let me tell you, women are harder on women victims because we each individually think about what would we do. I remember listening to a lecture from a former attorney for the Brooklyn Public Defender's Office. And he talks about having an innocent client who, it was a guy who basically he broke up with his girlfriend. The ex-girlfriend was vindictive, called the cops, said that he raped her. Well, he didn't know any better. So he selected an all-guy jury thinking that would be best. Those men, it's something about when it's men on a jury, they are more likely to sympathize with a woman. I can't describe the psyche completely, but men, it's almost like they don't want to get it wrong. They don't want to be that a-hole who let an assailant go free. So men are more likely to find a male guilty of the R word versus women are more likely to be skeptical of the woman victim in her position. So I think that Diddy should do a good job to try and keep like conservative females, women, those classier conservative type female women on a jury, because they're going to second guess, like, why would you do that, you nasty girl? Ew, you're just a freaky girl. Because remember, Diddy's defense is, she's a very freaky girl. That kind you don't take home to mama. Literally, his defense is, we're all some freaks. It's a freak party freak hoes, bounce that butt, make your knees touch your elbows. That is Diddy's defense. Therefore, he wants some people that are maybe more conservative, because the conservative ones would be like more judgy to the victims and perhaps more likely. But at the same time, some of those wild ones could be there too. So there's over 400 in the chat, y'all, and we only got 100 likes. Can I get some more likes? So yeah, so we covered the jury part. Oh, we got the freaky defense. I wanted to make sure you understood. He is like full force into that freaky defense. As you saw on that questionnaire, that's why question number 21 is, there could be evidence that people cheated on girlfriends or boyfriends with others. Would hearing about this kind of evidence affect your ability to be fair? Well, I feel like for most people, it shouldn't impact their ability to be fair. But I also feel like by simply asking the question, it's going to make certain jurors be more conscientious so that they can more conscientiously be fair. Yeah, she's a very freaky girl. That can you don't take him to my mom? Great. Great question. Is there a reason federal trials can't be on TV? No, it's the choice. It's actually the choice of each judge. Federal court is just a lot more professional, cordial, all that kind of stuff. So there's not a specific reason. But I did want to be clear that this case will not be televised. In fact, that's how come you have like people that go in the courtroom and draw. We're not even allowed to bring in cell phones, laptops. They don't let you bring in electronics. You have to get special permission unless you're part of the legal team. Also, let me see. We got the jurors. We got. Oh, and last but not least, y'all. So the prosecution and the defense continues to say victim 3 is missing, y'all. She done took off. Victim 3 is gone. Gone. I've heard different things. Now, victim 3 is Gina. Victim 3 is Gina, allegedly. Now, Gina is the girl that had a little spat with Young Miami. Gina is the one that was allegedly pregnant, and he slapped her around a little bit some of the time. So victim 3 is Gina, and Gina said, no, get somebody else to do it. Gina. Y'all know who Gina is. Gina is screaming. I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, let me just go ahead and say it. I found it interesting when I was doing the little deep dive into victim 3. What's going on? Why hasn't she been there? So what happened is during voir dire, the prosecutors stated to the judge that they have not been able to get in touch with victim 3, and it appears that she may not be testifying. Of course, Diddy's side is like, woohoo! Let us know by Friday if she's coming. She's up there at Freaky Girl. And the prosecution was like, we're looking into it. But they said something very telling. They said, we're having difficulty getting in touch with her lawyer and her, as in victim 3 and victim 3's lawyer, and that the lawyer has been difficult to reach. Did they give us some money? Because maybe that lawyer and Diddy are working out a settlement agreement that she gets that money and they're going to wire it to her over there in Bali. Yeah, y'all, my cup is a cowboy boot. If she gets that money, they're going to wire it to her in Bali. She might be sitting on the beach over there next to Russell Simmons. Because Gina, yeah, they said they can't reach her lawyer. Now, I don't know how her lawyer is. Her lawyer, it must not be Gloria Allred, because you can reach Gloria. It had to be rougher. Gina already had a rough life, okay? Because the fact that Gina went up there, talked about all the abortions he made her get, how he used to kick her in her stomach and beat up on her. Then she goes on the internet and gets in a little Twitter spat with Young Miami. I think Gina's struggling to pay her bills because she doesn't have any skill sets that I'm familiar with. I don't know, reading, writing, arithmetic. I don't know what she's good at besides being an influencer. And right now she can't influence people to do shit. I ain't doing shit that none of Diddy's girls tell me to do. That's the opposite of who I want to be when I grow up. So Diddy's not paying her bills no more. So in turn, if he's giving her an amount she can't refuse, Yeah, Sasha speaks. Good point. Sasha said Gina's been talking all this time and now she's absent. So I believe it's not confirmed. This is my hypothesis that Gina is number 3. Gina is bye-bye, and Gina either has or is about to get paid. Get paid, young money, get paid. Look, she's a very freaky girl. She's about to get paid. She can live very well in Bali with $1 million. Now, Gina, if you're watching this from whatever third world country you're in, I hope get you more than 10 million, because that's what Shannon Sharp gave that ugly little girl with the booty. I'm sorry, y'all, that girl was not. That I hope she's very nice, because you can't be mean and ugly. You got to pick. So, it says Gina is a parent too. Oh yeah, Gina's got to worry about the safety of her kid. Gina, we want you to get $10 million, okay? He paid her apartment and bills, plus she has a kid. Yeah, apartment and bills. See that, but the problem is when these men go to prison, they can't pay nothing no more. So then that's gonna be it. So I think Gina is talking about that. Yeah, Gina was on Tasha K years ago. She has been talking. Now she's probably taken the money and ran. And yeah, girl, Anika Alexander said it. And that's why he couldn't get a bond, for this exact reason. So it's my understanding that her attorneys may have been negotiating a settlement on her behalf. My question to you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, how is that not tampering with the witness? Just because you, the attorney, work on contingency fee and are going to get 40% of whatever check he cuts to her, 10 million to her, 4 million to her lawyer, it's still tampering with the witness. Furthermore, a subpoena was issued, and my understanding, the subpoena was served on her. Now, a subpoena being issued isn't enough. It must actually be served on you to create your obligation to go to court. But many have asked, well, what happens if she was subpoenaed and doesn't come? Then the answer is she could be arrested. She could be dragged into court. She could be, if you look at the YSL trial, Lil Woody, the one who got famous, he was really silly because they locked him up for not testifying. It was because he was subpoenaed and he came and said, I'm not doing it. I'm not testifying. So for that same reason, she could be locked up. She could be arrested. But at the same time, I don't think that's going to happen, because with the prosecution, she is a named star witness, right? Victim 3. There's 1, 2, and 3 mentioned in the the most recent indictment. The last thing you want to do as a prosecution is have your star witness be a disgruntled witness. You don't want a disgruntled witness up there. We all saw what happened in the Tory Lanez trial when Megan's ex-best friend Kelsey got up there talking, having amnesia, not remembering nothing. If that happens with the prosecution, it could kill the entire case. While, yes, you could potentially hold that person liable for perjury, at the time you deal with perjury and all that, that's going to be ages after the trial. That might be after he got off. So no, you don't risk it. You don't use a star witness that's disgruntled and don't even want to be here. And you just work with the rest of the evidence that you have. Now, if I was a prosecutor and I created my whole little case, my narrative around it, I would go have one of my cousins go find her and beat her up. But I'm not allowed. I mean, just kidding, psych. I can't admit that. My guess for how long the case will go for, actually, they're estimating 8 weeks. That sounds about right. I see that. That sounds about right, because they haven't had that much time to prepare for this. So there's only but so much and so many people you can subpoena, you can witness, you can coordinate and stuff like that. What y'all talking about? It says, girl, did you see that comment? I was appalled. Get the heck out of here. I don't know which one that was. Yeah, it says if I was a prosecutor. Oh, I can't afford to be a prosecutor. They don't make enough money. They don't. I can't do it. Respect to those who can. As a lawyer, would I recommend that he take a plea? It all depends on what the plea is. If there's a certain amount of time where it's like, nah, baby, take your chances. If that plea is 30 years, no. If that plea is 20 years, it might even be a no. Why won't jurors be sequestered as far as overnight hotel or something? It's rare that they do that in federal cases because federal cases they're generally high profile cases. So I'm not sure in this case, but that is a very legitimate question. I'm gonna see if I can find an answer for that. Who tried to plead the fifth? Well, Diddy, and there's no way in hell they're calling Diddy to the stand. Symone, I want you to go through 45. I want to go through 45 bottles of baby oil with you. Well, thank you. Dude lines. How about this? You tip my little Cash App. Let me pull it up. Here we go. Miss Redwine, you send a little tip over there and we'll talk. We'll do that. No. So I think that's it. Okay. That's all we got for now, guys. Trial will be starting on Monday. We're going to have the freaky deaky defense. I am really, let me know in the chat, which witnesses are you looking forward to? I am really looking forward to what Lori Ann Gibson has to say. Because baby, where's my gavel? Lori Ann Gibson is going to get on that stand and she's going to tell it. She's going to tell it concisely. He did her dirty. He did all kinds. We saw on national television the way that man mistreated her. And this is not about a work situation. Like he dogged that woman. He blackballed that woman. So I look forward to her. I'm curious if Aubrey, if they're going to call Aubrey O'Dell. I know Aubrey knows a whole bunch of stuff. Dawn Richardson. Who are some of the guys that you want to hear? I'm trying to think what guys. Yeah, her and Don. He dogged Lori Ann out, honey. Hey, Celeste, if you'd like to hire me, just go to SymoneRedwine.com and book a consultation. There, just at the header, click Book Symone, and that's the easiest way to hire me. Yes. They don't do it for the money. They do it for the agenda. Why won't jurors? Okay, we got it. I think that's everything, guys. All right, so I'm going to stay abreast on this. Again, Friday, they're going to finalize the jury. If there's anything sassy and interesting that happens with that, I can't wait. I'm going to tell y'all what witness I'm actually looking most forward to hearing. Of course, Cassie. But I really want to hear the evidence they have supporting Thalia Graves. Because remember, Thalia was the one who her ex-boyfriend tried to come out and say that she offered him $4 million to corroborate her side of the story. But then her side was that that wasn't true, that in fact, the boyfriend is like, there was a videotape that had been preserved over the years, and that's how she came to know that there was evidence of her grape and her situation. So I'm really looking forward to that witness. I want to hear from the girl who was dangled from the balcony, Cassie's homegirl. Y'all, all this time, I thought the person dangled from the balcony. There was a rumor that it was Wale, but I always thought if it wasn't Wale, that it was a dude. To know that he did that to a woman, this man has got to be stopped. He has got to be stopped. Well, thank you guys for joining. I'm wrapping it up now. Again, go to SymoneRedwine.com to book time with me. Thanks for watching. Your legal bestie. This is Girl, Is That Legal?